everyone, I'm Abigail, this is Kalifa, and welcome to another Two Kids interview.
We are joined by debut middle grade author Tim Cummings.
Mr. Cummings' novel, Alice the Cat, came out a couple of months ago.
Congratulations on your book, and thank you for joining us today.
We really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm a big fan of your channel. I watch your interviews. I watch your reviews. I loved your review of Indiana Jones because you were playing. You were playing the piano. You were playing all of the
Star Wars.
The scores, and that was so great. And I loved your Barbie review because I had just seen Barbie last week as well. That was a very interesting movie, right? Wow. So I'm really happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Can you give our viewers a brief summary of Alice the Cat?
With no spoilers, of course.
No spoilers. Okay. So this girl, her name is Tess, and she's about to be 13 years old. And she has a cat named Alice. Alice is older than she is. Alice is about 14 or 15 years old. And Tess lost her mom to breast cancer about 10 weeks ago. And she's an only child. And her father is very, very sad. He's not functioning at all because he's too sad. And she comes home on the last day of school and finds Alice running into the street when cars go by, like trying to get herself run over. It's almost like the cat is feeling the feelings that the other people aren't feeling, because animals are very real that way. So this is too much for her, and she gets very upset with her dad, and she takes the cat and she runs away. She feels she has no other choice. And she goes and hides out in this house in the neighborhood that's like an abandoned house. It's supposedly haunted. And she just needs to settle down somewhere, figure out what to do. And when she gets to the house, there's this other kid hiding out there too. And he's sort of the town pariah. He used to be the town hero, but then he had an accident and he kind of turned into the town pariah. And so everybody's afraid of him, but she's not afraid of him. They become friends and he helps her. And their first task is to get the cat to a vet to see what's happening. But there's another thing going on, which is that there actually is something in that house. It's a ghost. And she only makes herself known through Tess's loss. She kind of reaches out through Tess's loss, and they end up having to help each other out. Because the girl in the house needs something that Tess has in order to move on. And the thing that she needs is a cat. So that's kind of the premise. And then there's a lot of really kooky kids in it, and it's a coming of age adventure. It's sad because it's dealing with some serious stuff, but it's actually very goofy. It's like really goofy and funny, and all of the kids are really funny, and there's like songs in it, and they go on a lot of interesting adventures, and ultimately they're not, you wouldn't expect them all to be friends, but they all end up being friends and helping one another out.
That sounds really cool.
Was this book influenced by your own childhood in any way?
Just what happened to the cat. That did happen to me when I was a teenager. My mom passed away, and we had a cat. It was her cat, and she was acting very strangely. Unfortunately, animals are very instinctual that way. So that kind of stayed with me for a very long time into my adulthood. And I never really thought about it or did anything with it. But a few years back, I actually went back to school. I went to get my master's degree in writing for young people. And because I love all of those books so much. Like, I've been reading since I was younger than you are. I love books. You could see my bookshelf back there. Woo! I love books, and I love books for kids. And anyway, when I was in school, one day, it kind of popped into my head, the question, hey, whatever happened to the cat? Because I never knew what actually happened. And I thought about it, and I thought, I don't know that I want to go there, but I also knew that if something personal and emotional comes to you, it's probably a good place to write from. So I started with that, and then this whole world opened up of these kids. It's almost like they were waiting for somebody to sit down and write their story for them. And once it was me, they were like, that's him, go, go, go. And then it felt like a weird collaboration. Like they were children from another realm just feeding me down their story and I was writing it. It's very cool that way with writing, it's a very magical act. So you never really quite know what's going to come of it, but it always ends up being completely amazing. And here it is in the world. It's amazing to me.
Did you write a lot as a child?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I had this weird obsession with, whenever I would read a book, I would write a book report for it, even though I didn't have to. Like it wasn't an assignment from school. I just did it because I wanted to, and I had this little collection of like fake book reports, maybe so I could remember all of the books or something. But that was one of my favorite things to do. Anytime there was like a composition report, or write a short story or something, I always got A pluses. I was winning composition essays from the time I was a kid. I knew that writing would be in my future somehow, but I feel like I got a little bit of distracted because I started to be an actor when I was 11 years old. And I did that professionally for almost 40 years before I took a break. So, yeah, I've been writing for a very long time.
What is your process when putting a book together?
Do you decide the end before the middle?
Or do you put it together in order?
That's a really good question. I think you have a loose idea of what it's about and where it's going to end, and you let things come to you in the in between. Sometimes they work, sometimes they don't. You'll have to take it out or change it. So my process is to have a loose idea, like a framework, and then let the magic happen and see what happens. I mean, writing the first draft of a book is honestly the only one part of it, because after that you rewrite it and rewrite it and rewrite it, and then when you get a book deal, you work on it even more with your editor. So it's a long it's a long process from when you sit down to first write it until it comes into the world.
Have you had a time when you were doing something and you noticed someone or something and thought, I need to put that in a book?
Yes, like hearing a conversation in a movie theater or something, or at a restaurant, or um, going to a tourist site or something. Yeah, I mean, I think writers, actors, musicians, artists in general are hypersensitive to what's going on around them, and they're the purveyors of life and truth, so they need to reflect back what's happening in the world.
Rejection is a part of most writers'
Oh,
stories.
gosh.
Was it part of your journey at all?
Yes, very much. Very much. I was reading an article about the great Kate DiCamillo. Do you know who that is? Kate DiCamillo. She wrote Because of Winn-Dixie and Tale of Despereaux. I mean, she's probably one of the greatest children's writers that's ever lived. She's phenomenal. And she was talking about how, her first book was Because of Winn-Dixie. And that book was so well received, so celebrated, won so many awards. And she said she had nearly 500 rejections before anybody took it. That's how crazy it is. Yes, I had a lot of rejections. And, I wrote this book when I was in school, and I had one of my teachers, toward the end of my program, she really, really, really loved the book, and she was a well-known author. And she said, I'd like to help. I'd like to kind of get this out into the world. And I said, you can help. You can try to help as much as you want. I don't think anybody's going to want it. I understand how competitive it is out there. And I also wrote this book kind of for me. I wasn't paying attention to all of the rules and regulations and things that they want you to do. And I wasn't trying to write the next Harry Potter. I wasn't trying to, follow all the trends and stuff. I just had to write this story for me, and put everything into it that I wanted into it. Stuff that was very serious and sad because I experienced that when I was young, but also stuff that was really goofy, and weird, and also really scary because I love scary books and scary movies and suspense and ghosts. I knew there was going to be a ghost in it. So yeah, it all just kind of went in the way that I wanted it to go in. I didn't think that anybody would want to publish it. And a lot of people rejected it, and then somebody wanted to publish it.
We have interviewed a number of authors who have had books challenged and even banned from libraries.
Mm-hmm.
What are your thoughts on books being available?
Yes, I have feelings about it. I think it's wrong. It upsets me to think that there are people making decisions about that and removing what could be very useful material and information from the shelves so that kids like you could get it and read it. If I could think of a positive aspect to it, is that it's really forcing people to have a conversation about it. Like, why is this happening? Why are these books being removed from the shelves? Well, what's in these books that people think is so bad or not okay? Why would they be taking them off the shelves now? I mean, a lot of the books that are being banned have been in the world for many, 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 many years, right? So it's like, why are they taking them off the shelf now? And also, the most ridiculous thing is people are still going to find these books. I mean, now, every time I go to a bookstore, there's a huge poster in the window that's like banned books sold here. So, if anything, they're actually bringing more attention to these books and making people your age more curious about them. I mean, do you think that that's true? What do you guys think about this?
Yeah, banning these books are ridiculous.
So, it's a larger conversation that's being had in the world right now, but it's an important one. And I think, books that are dealing with heavier subject matter, maybe not every kid in the world needs it, but there are some kids who do. I firmly believe that. And even if you don't need that particular thing, you can learn about it nonetheless.
What writer has the most influence on you?
Oh my God, so many. As I mentioned earlier, Kate DiCamillo, I really love her. I really love I love the movies of Tim Burton. He's not a well, he's a writer, but not a novelist. I love his stuff and I love Neil Gaiman. Do you know who Neil Gaiman is? He wrote The Graveyard Book and Coraline. Those are two of my favorites of all time. He's a very big influence on me as well. Do you know who Madeleine L'Engle is? She wrote A Wrinkle in Time. She's a very big influence. And let's see, there's a writer named Philip Pullman who wrote the His Dark Materials books. The Golden Compass was the first book, and he was a huge influence on me. A lot of writers who write well in this age group. And the important thing to do is that it speaks to a kid, but it also speaks to an adult, because so many grown-ups love to read these books as well.
What advice do you have for young people who want to write?
Well, I mean, there are so many ways you can do it. You can join a writing group with your friends, and you can all write and then meet and read each other's work and talk about it and ask questions and say, this is what I really love, and this is what I have questions about, and what do you think about this? And so community and togetherness is really great for writing. Obviously, the most important thing about being a writer is reading. You have to read. Like, I read my face off. I never stop reading. Every time I go to a bookstore, I have to tell my friends, like, do not let me buy another book. I'm gonna go broke here. But I love books and I love reading books. And that's how you write well. Is you read a lot and you just sort of it's like you soak it in. It's almost like it's practice. It's like when you were playing the piano so well, you had to learn that. You have to practice it. And it's the same thing with writing. It's a tool, it's a skill. And I think young people who love to write do it because they really want to do it. If you feel like you have stories to tell.
You are working on 2 young adult books that take place in the same town as Alice the Cat. Can you tell us more about that?
So I made up this city called Weirville, because I wanted to create a place that was new but familiar. I didn't want to set it in any particular city or suburb around America or Europe or the UK. I kept imagining what this place would look like. It's a little like that. Stephen King, he writes all of his books in Castle Rock. That's not a real place. It just exists in the mythology of his books. So Weirville is my version of that. And it's like a little city suburb north of Pittsburgh and south of Cleveland, kind of on the border between Ohio and Pennsylvania. And again, it's very familiar, but also very weird and interesting. Like a cool place for Gen Z to grow up. And in the second book, there are characters from this one that appear in it. One of the characters in this has a pretty big part. She's just mentioned she's sort of more mysterious in the second book, but the second book is about theater. It's about these theater kids, and it's amazing. I mean, I know that world very well. I was a theater kid. I'm still a theater kid, but theater kids are completely amazing. And I wrote this book about, I don't want to give anything away, but they write a play that kind of changes the world, and they do it all themselves, and they're completely amazing. And there's magic in it too. And then there's actually a third book that takes place in Weirville too, which I've been working on and off. So it's kind of like a trilogy, I guess. The books aren't sequels to one another, but it's a trilogy in that it all takes place in the same place.
Does the second have a title yet?
Well, it has a working title, which is too long and weird, but it's working for now. It's called The Thistle, the IH, and the 8 Hugging Snakes.
Finally, it's time for our Turbo 10.
10
Ooh.
rapid fire questions.
Oh.
Are you ready?
Oh my gosh. Okay. Oh, I'm sweating a little. Okay, yes.
Let's go. Number 1, what is your favorite phrase to use?
What is my favorite phrase to use? I don't think that I can say it in this interview, but let's see. My favorite phrase to use would probably be you got steez. You know what that means? Steez is like style and ease. Steez. So I'll say all the time, like, he's got mad steez, or ooh, she's got steez. So steez.
Cool. Number 2, what is one subject you'd love to learn more about?
Marine biology.
Number 3, what is your go-to snack food?
Pizza. Always.
Number 4, what was your favorite book growing up?
Watership Down.
Number 5, if you could teleport somewhere right now, where would you go?
I would go to Hawaii and I would help with the fires. I love Hawaii and I'm so sad about the fires. I would go there and I would help, and I would do what I could to help heal it and help people and talk to the trees and flowers and earth and help grow it back. So sad.
Number 6, if you could have one superpower, what would it be?
My superpower would be to always feel happy no matter what was happening.
Number 7, what was your favorite cartoon as a kid?
Smurfs.
Number 8, what is your favorite rainy day activity?
Stickers. I'm obsessed with stickers. I have like a whole huge sticker collection, and I go through them and organize them. And if I'm writing out cards or giving gifts to people, I always like to know sort of, like I categorize them like animals, sea creatures, dinosaurs. See my dinosaur shirt?
I love
really like
dinosaurs.
Yes, I love dinosaurs. So if I have, it doesn't rain a lot here in LA, but if I do have a rainy day, then that's the kind of thing I like to do. Organize stickers and stuff like that.
Number 9, if you could have any 3 dinner guests, who would they be?
Well, Willy Wonka, Gene Wilder as Willy Wonka, because I really love Gene Wilder as Willy Wonka. Okay, so Willy Wonka, there's an author named Toni Morrison. She's passed away now, but she's a very big inspiration of mine. And Jacques Cousteau, the famous oceanographer.
Number 10.
That was a hard one.
Number 10, what is the best piece of advice you were ever given?
Feel everything. Feel your way through it. That's the best way through.
You did great. Thank you so much for doing that.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for spending this time with us.
And when I'm old enough, I can't wait to read your future book.
Thank you so much for having me.